She was standing right at my driveway, bolt cutters in her hand like she owned the place. Clang! The lock on my gate snapped, and before I could even step outside, she was already pulling on the handle of my Jeep. "This is HOA property now," she shouted like she was some kind of queen. I froze for a second, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe the audacity. That Jeep wasn't just any car. It was marked for police task force use. She had no idea what kind of fire she was playing with. I walked closer, calm but sharp. "That's my Jeep," I said, steady. She spun around, sunglasses sliding down her nose, and barked, "Not anymore. You broke HOA parking codes. I'm taking it in." She actually flashed a fake-looking piece of paper at me like some self-made eviction notice. My chest burned, but I stayed quiet. She thought I was powerless. She thought I was just another neighbor who'd bow to her self-invented rules. She yanked on the Jeep door again, but this time the alarm blasted. Red lights flashed across her face, and the siren echoed down the street. She jolted, stumbled, back a step, then puffed up like nothing had happened. "I'll call security," she screeched, fumbling for her phone. I leaned closer, dropped my voice so only she could hear, and said, "Karen, you just tried to steal federal property." Her smug smile faltered. She blinked, confused, like she wasn't sure if I was bluffing. But I didn't move, didn't laugh. I just let her sit in that silence as the alarm kept screaming through the neighborhood. And right then I saw it, the first crack in her fake authority. Because she had no idea the next call she made would be the one to expose her. She held her phone up high like it was some kind of weapon, pacing in circles while the Jeep's alarm screamed. "Yes, this is HOA enforcement. We have a situation here," she shouted into the receiver, pretending to talk to someone important. But the screen lit up clear as day. She hadn't even dialed a number. She was just yelling into the dial pad. Neighbors started peeking from their windows, curious about the commotion. A couple even stepped outside, whispering to each other. "You're trespassing," I said firmly, standing my ground. "That's my property, my Jeep, and you just cut my lock." She spun around and barked, "You're in violation. I warned you last month. Your vehicles are not approved under HOA policy. This Jeep is being seized as evidence." Her voice cracked on that last word, but she tried to puff herself up like a guard dog with no teeth. The funny thing, my Jeep wasn't even registered under my name. It was listed under the police task force I worked with. Every inch of it, from the reinforced panels to the encrypted radio inside, was classified. And she had no clue. Neighbors' murmurs grew louder, some siding with her, others looking at me with wide eyes. One old man muttered, "She's going too far this time." But Karen, fueled by the attention, only got bolder. She held her phone higher and screamed, "I have backup coming. Security will be here in 5 minutes and you'll regret this." I tilted my head, watching her drama unfold. "Security?" I asked slowly, almost amused. "Or your friends, pretending to be cops again?" Her eyes flickered just for a second, but then she plastered on that fake confidence, pointing at me like I was the criminal. The Jeep alarm finally cut off, leaving a heavy silence across the street. And in that silence, her so-called backup began to arrive. 2 men in cheap uniforms stepping out of a black SUV, trying too hard to look official. That was the moment I knew the real show was about to start. The SUV door slammed, and the 2 men strutted across the street like they owned the place. Their uniforms were wrinkled, their badges were plastic, and one of them still had the price tag dangling from his belt. But Karen clapped her hands together like she'd just summoned the FBI. "Here they are, arrest him," she barked, pointing at me like she was starring in her own TV show. The taller one stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Sir, you're in violation of HOA Code 14B. This vehicle is being impounded." His voice cracked halfway through the sentence, and a couple neighbors actually chuckled. I didn't move, I didn't even blink. Instead, I folded my arms and let them dig their own grave. "You boys done playing dress-up?" I asked calmly. The shorter one shifted nervously, glancing at Karen, but she waved her arms like a director shouting orders on set. "Don't listen to him, he's a trespasser. That Jeep is HOA property now, seize it." One of the neighbors across the street pulled out his phone and started recording. Another whispered, "Are they even real cops?" The fake badge guy barked, "Put your hands where we can see them." But his hands were shaking so badly he could barely keep hold of his clipboard. I finally took a step closer, slow and steady. "You're making a mistake," I said, my voice low but sharp, enough to cut the air. "That Jeep doesn't belong to me, and it belongs to the state. Task force vehicle. Tampering with it is a federal offense." The taller fake cop's face paled. He looked at the Jeep, then back at me, like he'd just realized this wasn't the small-time HOA power trip he signed up for. Karen, though, didn't flinch. She threw her hands on her hips and snapped, "Don't listen to him. He's bluffing. Take the car." But the men didn't move. Not forward, at least. Their eyes darted nervously between me, the Jeep, and the growing crowd of neighbors filming every second. That was when I decided to pull out my phone. Not to call anyone, just to press play. And the sound that came out silenced everyone. It was a recording. The same two officers caught on camera the week before, taking cash straight from Karen's hands. The audio echoed across the street clear as daylight. Karen's voice hissing, "You'll get your money when you deal with him. Just make it look official." Then came the rustling of cash, followed by one of the fake cops chuckling, "Don't worry, ma'am, we'll handle it." Every neighbor froze. The phones recording her didn't lower. They lifted higher. One woman gasped loud enough for everyone to hear, and a teenage kid muttered, "She actually paid them." The fake cops turned stiff, faces draining of color. As the crowd erupted into whispers, Karen's face went red, then pale, then red again. That's fake," she screamed, pointing wildly at me. "He edited that. None of that is real." But her voice cracked so badly it sounded more like a plea than authority. The tall fake cop tried to salvage it. "Don't believe that nonsense." But before he could finish, someone shouted from across the street, "Then why are your badges made of plastic?" Laughter rippled through the neighbors, some even stepping closer, circling like sharks, who smelled blood in the water. Karen stomped her foot, losing whatever grip she thought she had. "Enough! This Jeep is coming with me!" she snapped, rushing to grab the door handle again. But this time the neighbors didn't just watch. They shouted, "Leave his property alone! You're caught, Karen! You're not the law!" The mob energy shifted, no longer silent observers, but a wall against her. The two fake cops hesitated, unsure if they should run or stay. Karen, shaking, yelled back, "You'll all regret this. The real authorities will be here any minute." I just smiled. "Good," I said, pulling my phone higher so everyone could hear me clearly. Because I already called them 10 minutes ago, and just as I said it, the distant wail of real sirens rolled closer, echoing down the block. The sirens grew louder, flashing blue and red bouncing off the houses as two squad cars rolled up the street. The neighbors scattered to the sidewalks, phones still raised, recording every second. Karen straightened up like she'd been waiting for this moment, her smug grin snapping back in place. "Finally," she cried, strutting forward like she was about to hand-deliver me to the police. "Officers, thank God you're here. Arrest him immediately. He's trespassing, resisting HOA enforcement, and he threatened me." Her voice was sharp, rehearsed, dripping with fake authority. The real cops stepped out, hands resting near their belts, eyes scanning the scene. One of them looked at Karen, then at the Jeep, then at me standing calmly with my phone still raised. Karen waved frantically at them. "Don't listen to him, he's dangerous. That vehicle is HOA property." I didn't say a word at first. I just tapped my phone screen and let the audio play again. The cash exchange, the fake cops promising to handle me. This time, the recording blasted loud enough for both officers to hear clearly. The taller officer's expression hardened. He turned slowly toward the two imposters, eyes narrowing at their fake uniforms. "Badge numbers," he demanded. Silence. The two men froze, stammering, their hands twitching nervously by their sides. Karen jumped in, screaming, "They're with me! They work for HOA enforcement!" That was the final nail. The shorter officer stepped past me and yanked one of the fake badges clean off the tall guy's chest. The cheap plastic bent in his hand. He tossed it on the ground and said, "Ma'am, these men aren't law enforcement, and neither are you. Karen's face twisted. What? No, they're official, she shrieked, but her voice was drowned out by neighbors laughing, some outright cheering. Then the officer turned to me. Sir, is this your vehicle? Yes, I said calmly. Registered to a state task force, and she just tried to steal it, cut my lock, and hired these guys to impersonate police. The second officer's radio crackled as he stepped closer to Karen. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to keep your hands where I can see them. Her smug grin was gone. For the first time, real fear flickered across her face. Karen's eyes darted around like a cornered animal, her breath coming fast. The neighbors pressed closer, phones raised higher, the hum of whispers turning into a low roar. The officer repeated, firmer this time, hands where I can see them. But, instead of obeying, Karen snapped, No, you don't understand, I'm in charge here, she screamed, clutching at her purse. This is my neighborhood, my rules. She yanked out a stack of crumpled HOA notices and waved them in the air like holy scripture. Pages fluttered to the ground, ridiculous fines and threats printed in bold, but nobody took them seriously anymore. The neighbors actually laughed. The taller fake cop tried one last move, stepping forward with his hands raised. She was just confused, he muttered weakly. But the officer shoved him back against the SUV and slapped cuffs on his wrists in one swift motion. The shorter one didn't even resist. He just put his hands up, muttering, I'm done, man. I'm done. Karen shrieked at the sight of her backup falling apart. No, you can't do this to me. I run this HOA. But the officer didn't flinch. He turned her around, pulled her arms back, and snapped the cuffs over her wrists as the whole street erupted in cheers. Someone shouted, Finally! And another neighbor yelled, About time she paid for this. Karen kicked at the pavement, screaming, I'll sue all of you. I'll have you evicted. You'll regret this. But her voice cracked with every word, drowned out by the sirens and the laughter around her. She looked nothing like the queen of the block anymore. Just another criminal caught in the act. I stepped closer, not to gloat, but to say one thing loud enough for everyone to hear. Karen, you tried to steal from me. But you didn't just pick the wrong neighbor. You picked the wrong Jeep. Her face went white, and that was the last thing she heard before the squad car door slammed shut. The squad car rolled away, Karen thrashing in the back seat while the neighbors clapped like it was the 4th of July parade. Phones were still recording, and I knew those clips would be all over the internet before nightfall. But the moment the sirens faded, the street grew strangely quiet. Everyone turned toward me, not with fear, not with suspicion, but with relief. An elderly man stepped forward, voice trembling. Son, we've been waiting years for someone to stand up to her. A woman beside him nodded, clutching her little girl's hand. She's bullied every family on this block. You finally ended it. I looked around at their faces, families who had been fined for planting the wrong flowers, veterans harassed for parking their trucks, single parents threatened with eviction over made-up rules. She'd built her power on their silence. That silence was broken now. I didn't fight for this country, I said slowly, my voice carrying across the street, to come home and be told I can't park in my own driveway. Land means freedom, and freedom is something nobody, especially an HOA Karen, gets to take away. The crowd erupted again, but this time it wasn't just laughter or cheers, it was something deeper. Neighbors shook hands, clapped me on the shoulder, even hugged each other. For the first time in years, they felt free in their own homes. That night, news trucks showed up. By morning, the headlines spread everywhere. HOA president arrested for impersonating police, extortion, and property theft. Her empire of fake notices and empty threats crumbled in a single day. As for me, I parked that task force Jeep right in my driveway with the windows down and the radio humming. No tickets, no threats, no knocks on my door, just peace. Because in this country, you don't let tyrants, no matter how small, decide what you're allowed to call your own. And that's a lesson Karen learned the hard way.